go. It's Thursday night. You know what that means? That means it's the Hammer and Nails show. Tonight is episode 18. I'm Jack Hammer and my co-host over here, Jessie Naylor. How you doing tonight, Jessie?
I'm doing fantastic. Episode 18. I knew it was episode 18, Jack. You didn't have to tell me.
That's right. We got that stuff down. We got this thing on lockdown. Definitely. A lot of things been going on. Training camp pretty much wrapped up today in terms of what the open portion of training camp.
For sure.
For the media to be able to be there, at least during the practices here in Santa Clara and fans. A lot of good things happening. So let's just jump right into it, unless you have anything you want to kind of throw out there to start with.
No, let's go. I have a couple thoughts, but I'll hold them off because it'll probably come up during the topic. So,
all right, perfect. Let's go. So let's start off with the quarterback competition. I put the competition there in quotes because that's what the head coach said. Kyle Shanahan has said it's not a competition, even though Jimmy Garoppolo did mention it being a competition a couple days ago. So what are you kind of gathering from afar?
I just I guess my thought is that Shanahan will eventually turn it into a competition, but he's going to wait till the media is out of there. I mean, for whatever reason, he wants to keep the whole thing under wraps, whether it's to protect Lance in case he doesn't earn the starting job, whether it's to protect Jimmy's trade value or perceived trade value. It's just the only thing I can think of because, I mean, again, I'm not there. I know that you fortunately are. I know Grant's been there. And a bunch of other guys that I trust are constantly, tweeting things out. And everybody has said the same thing. Lance looks fantastic. So at what point do you just see if the kid can go week one, right? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure when that is. I mean, obviously I'm still very bullish that he's going to start week one. And that being said, that means that the competition has to fully open up at some point. I would imagine that he passes this test on Saturday. We're very close to preseason game number 1. And I know that 49er fans have to be super excited about that. I know I am. And with that being said, let's all see how he plays this Saturday. If he plays well, listen, at some point you got to start making it a real competition. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, in watching this, what I've seen, at least especially this week, I was there all 3 days of this week, and Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played bad. Let me just make sure I put that out there. It's not like Jimmy Garoppolo's out there not making. I'm not going to say he's not making plays, but I'm saying it's not like he's out there and he's just totally wetting the bed. He's out there. He's making plays. He's playing like Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the Jimmy Garoppolo that everybody knows, loves, or hates, right? A lot of short throws. The majority of his completions yesterday were on screens and checkdowns. Really the same thing today. He had yesterday. There was a lot of talk about the deep throw down the sideline from Trey Lance to Deebo Samuel. And what was interesting about it was they ran the same exact play, one play before with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing it to Brandon Ayuk, and it was just an awful throw.
Right.
And so that one got a lot of highlights, but the other one that they got missed and people really didn't talk a lot about was a few plays earlier. They basically, they ran Kyle Juszczyk out on a little leak route, similar to if you for those of you watching, if you go back and you remember the early part of the Philadelphia Eagles game when Nick Mullins overthrew Kyle Juszczyk down the left sidelines, you basically had that same exact route with that same exact outcome. Kyle Juszczyk is wide open running down the right side and out of the backfield, and Garoppolo just airbails him, throws over top of his head, and lands 5 yards in front of him. There's definitely a difference between these two when you watch them play. One guy's getting the ball down the field on a consistent basis, or at least taking shots, and the other guy is really taking what the defense has given him, I guess, taking the dinks and dunks. And I wrote this today in my camp observations. Just one other piece about this is that I think this play showed the difference between these two. They ran a play action, and they had one guy coming on an over route. So he's coming from the right side of the field, about 10 to 15 yards across. So that's an over route because he's behind the linebackers. And then they had a deep route with River Craycraft. And Lance did a nice job on the play action. He steps up. He has that over route. But then he takes one more step and he throws it deep to Craycraft, who then makes a nice catch really fantastic catch along the sideline for a gain of 40. So instead of having that catch for 20, 25 yards, they get a 40-yard completion down the sidelines on a much tougher throw. So that's the difference between these two guys. And I know we have some other topics about this that we're going to get into, but I just right now, if you ask me, and somebody in the comment section mentioned this, is who do you think is the better quarterback? I would say these guys are on the level playing field. I don't see, Jimmy Garoppolo is doing what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing against the starting defense. Trey Lance is out there dominating the second team defense with an offensive line that has Tom Compton at right tackle and Jake Brendel at center, and getting pressured and having to run around and still is out there making plays and moving the offense down the field. So from a quarterback competition standpoint, I think that it's really even. And the minute that they let Trey Lance, get out there and run behind the starting offensive line, this competition is going to be over.
Let me ask you this, though, Jack. So you're saying that it's even, which, I can get behind that. But if it's even to you, wouldn't you start Trey Lance in that scenario?
Yes, I felt that way all along. If these guys are anywhere close to each other, that Lance should be getting the start because you spent the money to get him. And my thing is I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo do anything on the football field that Trey Lance can't do just as well.
Right.
Plus Trey Lance has that ability to do things with his legs that Jimmy can't. And he also has that ability or the want to throw the ball down the field. I think that's the other part, is that desire to throw the ball down the field. He really wants to get the ball and push it down the field, whereas I don't think that's there with Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, it's definitely not. And I think Grant pointed it out on Twitter today. Jimmy had something like 6 more completions, yet he had like 50 less passing yards. Like, that shows you right there that Lance is willing to take deep shots, and he's doing it every practice, and he's hitting them every practice. And it's crazy to me to watch Jimmy make a throw and everybody oohs and ahs over it. And then Trey Lance makes the same throw yesterday to Debo, basically the same exact play, the same distance as what Jimmy made a week ago, or at least that's the way it showed up on camera. And it was a much better throw, and nobody says anything, outside of you and Grant and, some guys that aren't necessarily so pro Jimmy. So I don't know, man. I guess my thought is this. Unless you are so confident that Jimmy is going to win you a Super Bowl this year, that he's enough to win you a Super Bowl, there's no reason not to play Lance unless he's just so far behind that he needs the time. He's showing anything but that. And my worry is if they don't play him this year, or they wait too long to play him, that he's not fully developed next year, because now he's sat 2 years, and it's not until year 3 of him being in the league that they're really ready to hit their stride as a team, and you've only got that year and the next year of his rookie contract. That worries me.
Yeah, and I hear you on that. And the one last piece I'll mention here on the quarterback competition, at least for this portion of it, is there's a lot of people that are getting upset about the use of stats to talk about who's the better quarterback in this deal. So let's just go ahead and let's take stats out of the equation for a minute in terms of completion percentages, and let's take that out of it. And let's go back. Let's look at these two quarterbacks, what they did this week in some situational pieces of practice. In a red zone period, Jimmy Garoppolo goes 1 of 5, no touchdowns at all in that early red zone period. Trey Lance gets in there, 5 for 5. A touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk right over the middle on a terrific throw. A really nice ball to Mohamed Sanu at the right front pylon, and then he sticks one in over the top of the linebackers on a really nice ball to Juwan Jennings. So boom, there you go, 3 touchdowns for 1 compared to the other one, getting not only having 1 completion. Then later on they get into that again, and that's where Garoppolo throws the interception. Right, they put him in this 4th and goal, no timeouts, end of the game scenario, make a play, and Garoppolo throws an interception on a ball that he should have known that wasn't going to be there. Standing there watching the defense as the play was going on, you could see that they knew it was coming, and Garoppolo should have been able to kind of have an idea what that coverage was over there and come back to the backside. Instead, he tries to farce it in there, which is fine given the fact that it's end of the game, right? But throwing there was a bad choice. The choice should have been, that's going to be covered. I need to come backside, and he needed to recognize that, and he didn't. So that's a bad play by Garoppolo. Even though Shanahan said that he wanted to see that ball be thrown, that's a bad play by Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't. There's no way that you can say that that was a good play. And then Trey Lance gets his turn, and he throws a ball short to the tight end. It was Charlie Warner in the flat. He's getting pressure. He's trying to bail back because he's getting pressure right up the middle. Doesn't have anywhere to go, and he dumps it off to him. He catches the ball, and it's it because the time runs out. And that just became this huge narrative that one guy did really good because he threw the ball. It was an interception, and Shanahan liked it, whereas, he didn't like what Lance did. Well, no kidding, he didn't like what Lance did. I'm pretty sure if you talk to Shanahan, he really didn't like the result from either guy, But the way that the question is phrased makes it look like it's different, So, and then also they did a 2-minute drill on that same practice, and that 2-minute drill, both quarterbacks drive the ball down. Neither quarterback scores a touchdown, but they both put their offense in position to kick a field goal. So they're even again, right? Now today they do a move the ball period. 1 minute to go in the game, down 4, one timeout, starting on their own 40-yard line. Garoppolo does a nice job dinking and dunking his way down, and he finishes it off with a nice throw in the flat to Brandon Ayuk for the touchdown. The best throw of that whole thing was really his throw to River Craycraft. I think that was a nice play. But they score a touchdown. Awesome. Now Trey Lance gets in, and it's the same thing. I shouldn't say it's the same thing because it's completely not. His first 2 throws are incomplete. Then he drills a ball into Jalen Hurd, who everybody has kind of written off, but he sticks one into him, first down. Very next play they come back, it's a deeper throw, and this one he sticks into him with the safety coming across, and he's able to get it into him in a position where only Hurd's going to make that catch. He's kind of throwing it away from the safety. Big play. Now they're down at the 20, and a couple plays later, perfect ball to the tight end to 82 for a touchdown. I forget his name. How could I forget Ross Dwelly? How could I forget Ross Dwelly? Ross, come on now, But he sticks it in there to Ross Dwelly, and then it's funny because you got some folks saying that it wasn't a touchdown and whatnot because they bring the ball and they place it at the 2. But that got clarified by Shanahan after practice that he did that on purpose because he just wanted to put Trey in that Lance in that end of the game at the 2-yard line situation and see if he could stick it in there. So
it was a touchdown, and
it was
Shanahan. Okay, all right.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't even think he got touched. He caught the ball over the middle. I don't think anybody was even close to him. Really, he beat the safety so bad he caught the ball and was walking in.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as that goes, that whole thing. Take the stats out of it. Look at the situational play, and these guys are at the same level. And Jimmy, if Trey Lance was playing behind the offensive line that Jimmy Garoppolo is playing behind right now, he'd be lighting it up because every time he gets a chance to throw the ball, he drills it in there. And it's really frustrating to read these reports and people trying to act like this guy isn't playing well. I understand he's a rookie and he's going to make mistakes, but he's in his 13th practice playing just as good, if not better, than a guy who's in his 5th year. Not even his 5th year, in his 5th year with the 49ers, but I think he's in, his 8th year as a pro. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you're there. I think that's the other thing, though, too, Jack, is there's a lot of skepticism, and that's fair. I mean, it's probably coming from the same crowd that said this kid played at the FCS. How can he – first of all, let's see him against the SEC, let alone an NFL team. So I think people need to see it. And hopefully Saturday he gets fully showcased and they can see what he's capable of. Because I think that right there is how Lance can overcome the crowd that wants to suppress and say, listen, he shouldn't play. Jimmy's our guy. Give him time. We don't want to ruin him. What if he gets injured? Like all this naysaying that's going on can all be put to rest if Lance comes out and performs on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And if you're right, they haven't seen him yet, so there's no pressure from the fan base. There's no chatter about we need to see Lance. There's a small group of people that are saying that, and if Lance goes out there and plays on Saturday the way that he's been playing in practice, that's going to change. I think you're going to start hearing a lot more people talk about the fact that they need to get him on the field, and then go from there. But real quick before we move on, I do want to hit on this question right here that Raymond asked. From what he asked me, from what I've seen at camp, would Jimmy make Kyle's job easier, or would Trey? And that one's pretty simple for me. I think the answer to that is Trey. Trey Lance makes it much easier for Kyle Shanahan, because when the play breaks down, Trey Lance could run the ball for a first down if everything's not good, and we've seen that in camp. You've seen that happen. There's times maybe when he would have taken a sack, but he's getting hit or would have been tapped or whatever, right? The way that they do it. But yeah, no, Trey Lance makes his job easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because Trey Lance, to your point, can do everything that Jimmy does. He can dink and dunk. Even if he's dinking and dunking, he adds in the elements of being able to run. And that's not his game anyways. He can also throw downfield and is not afraid to take shots, which he's proved day in and day out. So, yeah, I would say that when the field opens up vertically and horizontally and you add in the legs, I would say that it makes that quarterback's job easier. I would think.
Yeah, I think, I'm with you on that one 100%. Let's go ahead and let's change gears here a little bit. This kind of is something that started to you've started to hear a little bit really yesterday. I mentioned it, but some other folks were mentioning it as well. And the question is really, should Trey Lance start getting reps with the first group? And just to kind of preface this for anybody who's wondering why this question's asked, it's really about the lack of protection on the second team offensive line. And what's happening there is it's not allowing Lance to really play quarterback from the pocket and develop there. It's nice that he has to run around, but he's not able to really sit there and deliver the ball and read through the progressions like you'd want to see him be able to do, like he'd probably be doing with the first team offensive line. So, Jesse, what do you think on this? Should Lance get some reps with the ones?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if Shanahan's plan is what he says it is, in saying that Lance will get some reps with the first team come actual game day, it'll be situational football and he'll use both of them to their strengths and whatnot. Even if that's how he decides to play it, which I don't think that's how that's going to go, but let's say he is going to do that, at some point you would think that you've got to get him used to playing with the ones. I mean, if you're going to play to his strengths and put him in on certain series, well, that tells me that you're going to be running read option. If you're going to be running read option, shouldn't he be figuring that stuff out with the Sermons and the Mosterts and not the Gallmans and whoever? So that, I would say, is very important. He is getting some burn with some of the ones weapons because they will rotate in and out. So that's good. But yes, I think, the cadence with the offensive line, I think figuring out that read option, which seems to be a little bit of an issue. They're still trying to figure that out. Great. Well, let's say he does figure it out with Gallman. Well, then what about Mostert and Sermon? So, yes, absolutely. He should be getting, no matter what the circumstance is, whether he's your week one starter or he's going to come in certain situations, absolutely. He should be getting some burn with the ones.
Yeah, and I agree. And like as you mentioned, he has been taking reps all along with the skill position guys that are ones. He's been taking reps with Kittle and Samuel. Obviously Samuel, since he had the big throw to him yesterday, Brandon Ayuk and all those guys. He's been having those reps. And this conversation is about him getting reps really with the first team offensive line. And the mention, when you mentioned this, at least when I mentioned it yesterday, I was getting hammered with people saying saying that, why do you want him to start right now, and so on and so forth. And I finally had to respond and say, I'm not trying to say that he should be starting right now, even though I feel like that's the direction this thing is headed. It's more of you need to put him behind the first team offensive line so that he can continue his development as a quarterback. He's shown that he can beat the second team defense with the offensive line that's in front of him, which is really bad, and he's having to use his legs and do those types of things. So let's get him behind an offensive line that's going to block for him, and let's let him start to continue to build. And I think you mentioned this a second ago, but if you didn't, I'll say it again. The whole deal here is I don't think that we're going to see that until after the media is gone, which is going to be after the the Chargers game, I believe, because the media will be down there for the open practices against the Chargers, so they're going to see those. It's going to be probably before week 3, or it's going to be after week 3 during that bye week, because they do have 2 weeks between that last preseason game and the start of the regular season. So that's when I would expect that this probably will take place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the San Diego practices, and Grant mentioned this yesterday, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Are you actually going to be there next week?
No, I can't get down to San Diego, unfortunately.
I'm curious because he said he's really excited to see Herbert in person, and then compare that to what he sees from Lance, because obviously everybody thinks that Lance is the truth, but seeing him against an elite player like Herbert, well, that will really tell you how good this kid can be, because right now you're seeing him against the Rosens and Sudfields and Jimmy and whatnot. So seeing him against a big, physical, strong arm quarterback will be interesting to kind of compare and contrast in person.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see, just to be able to, like you said, to see that, because they are similar. So for me, that's not a comparison, though, when it comes to the 49ers and really what we're getting after, So to me, I wouldn't take a whole lot. That wouldn't mean a whole lot to me. For me, I want to see him running the 49ers offense and compare it to Garoppolo, because that's the battle, and that's the future of the 49ers. But I understand what you're saying. You want to see him against the guy who I think most people, I don't think, was one of the best rookies in the NFL last year, and is going to be one of the better quarterbacks going forward. So.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just physically, right? Everybody talks about how the ball jumps off Lance's hand. Well, how much does it jump off his hand, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that because it certainly jumps off Herbert's hand. We know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it does, and it's funny with Trey Lance. I saw this yesterday, and you're talking about the ball coming to his hands and what have you. And I tweeted out the throw to Samuel, and I started getting responses about how wobbly Trey Lance's football is when he throws it sometimes, because it's not always a perfect spiral. And I just gotta, sometimes when I see this stuff from 49ers fans, is, have you not watched Jimmy Garoppolo for the last 4 years? Have you not watched the 49ers quarterbacks period for the last 4 years? I mean, I don't care if the guy throws when the guy throws a ball, it looks like a duck. They got shot in the behind. As long as it gets to the guy, I don't care if that thing's end over end like a kickoff. Just get it there.
By the way, not every quarterback throws a beautiful ball. I mean, Peyton Manning threw wobblers for his whole career. Like, it didn't stop him from being a great quarterback. You know what I mean? So it's like Warren Moon probably had the prettiest ball of all time, and he's a great quarterback, but I don't think many people are clamoring for him to be in their top 7 or even top 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally hear you on that one. So let's go ahead and let's transition a little bit away from the quarterbacks real quick, and let's talk about the rookies overall. Kind of the progress of the rookies. And this one to me is an interesting topic, because you look at the whole room, and you've got Lance and Banks and so on, but there's only one rookie that's really playing right now, and that's Trey Sermon. But beyond that, what are your thoughts on what the rookies have been doing?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're doing rookie things, right? And that's okay. The only issue that I have, and it's not an issue, it's not their fault, but it's just more of a worry of mine, is we've been talking about this secondary depth all offseason. And Ambry and Lenore, sure, they may end up being pretty good players. And obviously, being an Oregon Duck fan, I know Lenore. I think Lenore, for as late as he was picked, will be a pretty good player. But the last thing that we want to see is those guys having to prove it this year, right? So maybe on special teams or what have you, but we definitely do not want to be in a situation where Verrett potentially is out and you've got to see Diamador, or you've got to see Ambry Thomas in the starting lineup. Like, that's something we do not want to see this year, but most likely we're going to have to see it. And cornerbacks tend to develop a little bit slower. You look at the Detroit Lions, you look at Jeff Okudah, who was the consensus #1 corner last year. He didn't look that great. Now, a lot of that is coaching staff and what have you, but the reality of the situation is corners tend to get burnt early for the most part. So I don't want to see those guys play. And everything that's coming out of camp is they look all right. They're developing slowly. They're doing what rookies are supposed to do. So that's my one concern. I would say the one thing that I'm very excited about is Trey Sermon, obviously, and Elijah Mitchell. I think both of those guys have been doing good things from everything that I hear. They both look like they'll be able to play right away. And I just talked about how the cornerback position is one of those positions that you develop very slowly. Well, in contrast, the running back position is one of those positions where you usually know right away if a player is going to be good. So the fact that those guys are playing well right away gives me a lot of confidence that they made the right choice in bringing them in. And then the guy that's kind of in the middle for me is going to be Banks. You've heard some good things. You've heard some bad things. A lot of people hope and still do that he'd be the starting right guard. We don't know if that's going to happen, but it seems like it's going to be a full-on battle for that right guard position. Now, if he wins it, that's very encouraging. If he doesn't win it, do we start to worry that another early pick, a second rounder, is something that we potentially have thrown away? So that's kind of my thoughts on the rookies.
Okay. Yeah. And, like what you said, Trey Sermon's definitely looked good. Him and Elijah Mitchell have both done really good things in the backfield. And definitely Sermon, he's in line to be right there with the one. So we're only going to see a lot of him on Saturday night, I think, and we'll see a lot of Mitchell probably in the second quarter and early into the second half. Beyond that, it was interesting today. They had the two rookie cornerbacks that you're talking about, even Aaron Banks. Those three guys all came to meet with the media after practice today, and you can tell that they're rookies compared to everybody else. And Diameter Lenore, I think it was, is the one that mentioned about how lost he was when training camp first started, during OTAs, and how him and luckily he had Ambry Thomas with him because they knew each other from high school and they played with each other in the All-Star game in high school and whatnot. But just how lost they were early on, and they still kind of are, but they're starting to kind of get their legs under them. So all these rookies are being held back. Quite frankly, they're being held back by the coaches on purpose. Aaron Banks is a guy who I don't think he's going to be a bust. When you watch him and you really focus in on him, I think he's doing a pretty good job. He's definitely getting coached up pretty hard. Just when you stand there and watch the assistant offensive line coach working with them, there's definitely little bits of his mechanics that need to be worked on. But right. he's coming along. And there's a lot of chatter about the second team offensive line. Okay, so this we're talking about rookies, but there were two of the rookies, you had Aaron Banks and you also had Jalen Moore. So those guys are both they're both on that second team offensive line. And then also at left guard is Colton McKivitz, who was a rookie last year. So you've got three guys that they've invested draft picks in on that second team offensive line. And I think if you really focus in on this, and it's going to be something to watch for on Saturday because we're finally going to be able to get up a higher view, and that camera view is going to make it a little bit easier for us to focus in on these guys and how they're doing. I think the real problem with that second team offensive line is the fact that you've got Tom Compton at right tackle and you've got Jake Brendel at center. And neither one of those two guys are really anybody that's expected to really make this team and make an impact. Maybe one of them would make it as the ninth offensive lineman. So the people that are really frustrated about that group, I think there's some good work being done. It's just that the guys that aren't expected to make the team necessarily aren't up to that level are the ones that are struggling the most, and it makes it really hard. We saw that last year at right guard, right? We saw it with McGlinchey. We saw it at the center and guard positions were so out of whack last year that it kind of ruined the whole offensive line. And so I think we're seeing that on that second group. So I think those guys are okay. And Thomas and Lenore are coming along. So is Hufanga. They're progressing. There's some progress being made there. And the deal with those corners, I think, was hardest for them. This is a really long answer for me, so I apologize to everybody.
No,
but
keep it going.
Ambry Thomas mentioned it today. He comes from a system that was heavy on man pressure, on man coverage, press man. And while they do that at times with the 49ers, they don't do it as often. And so he's having to learn how to play off and really see the whole picture in front of him and see play zone. And that's an adjustment for him. And that's probably part of why when you watch him play during the one-on-one period. Ambry Thomas is one of the best corners on the team when they're in that one-on-one period. He does a very good job against all the wide receivers of the 49ers. He did a good job with both Debo and Brandon Ayuk when he was matched up with them. So he's a guy who I think is just going to take them some time. And we're going into week 1 of the preseason, and this deal is still over a month away before the first game. So there's a long ways to go in this thing before we get to that period. I think where we need to worry. I think they're actually better off in the secondary than we're trusting them to be. I just don't think we have enough faith in them right now, based off of some of what I've seen.
Can I ask you about 2 players that we're not hearing a lot about, and the chat has definitely been asking about it? Moore and Gutierrez. How do they look?
So we're talking about Jalen Moore?
Yep.
Yeah, Jalen Moore's looked good. He's been he's the left tackle on that second unit, and he's holding his own. He's doing a good job over there at the left tackle spot. And I think once the season starts, he's probably going to be your swing tackle. He's definitely ahead of Sean Coleman at this point, who is his competition for that position. So that's why he's running with the 2s and Mitchell and Coleman's with the 3s. So he's looking good. And as far as Gutierrez, I kind of heard some talk about him the other day, and I agree with it. He's a guy who doesn't look like he's completely lost on the football field. He looks like he knows he understands, the game to a certain extent. You can tell that hasn't played a lot because he's not using his hands, or he's kind of slow with his hands and how and so on and so forth. But he looks okay. He looks like a guy who belongs on a football field. And doesn't look out of place in the NFL in a training camp.
That's good. No, that's very good. I mean, especially for an undrafted guy, that's all you can ask for. So I like it.
Yeah. No, definitely. That you're 100% right. That's really all you could ask for on that one. Anything else on the rookies for you tonight?
No, I'm good, man.
We hammered those away, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we did. There's some good puns going on in the chat. I gotta give them some credit. There's some good ones going on in there. I like it. Keep them coming.
All right. So this is a topic that a few folks I've noticed asking about, and it's the signing of Clinton-Dix from yesterday, and he made his debut on the football field for the 49ers. We're in number 49 today. So what were your thoughts on that signing? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, he's a versatile safety, right? He's 29 years old, or he's going to be 29 years old. He has, I want to say it's like 16 or 33 pass deflections and like 16 interceptions or something like that in his career. So he's done some work in the NFL. He's a pretty good player. And especially as a backup, I'll definitely take it. He's played both safety positions. I think that's extremely important because you never know which position he's going to be needed at. And with Tart being out and who knows how long, hopefully he comes back sooner than later, but I'm not feeling very optimistic about it. I think having a good veteran that can play both safety spots if need be, who's been a little bit of a ball hawk throughout his career, somebody that has really an axe to grind and trying to prove himself again, because remember, he was given guaranteed money. It was around like $2.5 million he was given last year from Dallas, and they outright cut him before the season even started. So I know that he has something to prove, and I think it's a good addition, especially this late in the season. You didn't have to trade for anybody. He's a name that pretty much everybody knows, and like I said, the versatility for somebody that's still out there, you really can't do much better than
Yeah, for this time of year, what they were, kind of where they're at with the safeties, to be able to bring a veteran in like Clinton-Dix was a good signing for them. What this means in terms of playing time, I wouldn't put a whole lot of thought or stock into him really playing for the team much this year. That's going to be. Right now, Tavon Wilson's doing a pretty nice job back there with the starting group. He's received some pretty high praise from D'Amico Ryans. And then they have Talanoa Hufanga running with the 2s back there, and he's been doing pretty good. He's a guy who I really like. He does a really good job when he's around the line of scrimmage, and he does a good job when he's back as well, because he needs to kind of see everything in front of him. Where he struggles is if he gets stuck in a man situation where he's having to turn and run with somebody. That's usually where he struggles. So, but back to Clinton Dix, I don't think he touched the field today as far as during team period. I think he was on the sidelines, but that doesn't, that's
He
literally
just got signed. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, even just
Uh-huh.
seeing him on the field was a little bit surprising. So
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's he was out there, he was stretching, he going through the the individual periods and things like that, and it's his first day, and they're getting ready for a preseason game on Saturday, even though they don't really do a whole lot of game planning or any at all for these games. They're still kind of trying to get the guys ready and go through. So it wasn't a shock to not see him get any reps today. So as far as the folks asking about how he looked really good when he was stretching. He looked like he was, and I say that kind of half jokingly because he looked like he was excited to be there. You saw the tweet that he sent out, expressing his thanks to the Framers for bringing him in, and there was some pop in his step and some a lot of slapping of hands and things like that. So he looks like he's bringing some energy to that group. So it'll be fun.
for sure, dude, I gotta stop reading the chat because these guys are on fire tonight with some of these jokes. It's pretty good, pretty dang good. Texas Niner, he had a good one. Somebody else, who else had a good one? Where's it at?
Texas,
Benjamin
yeah,
Roberts.
Texas Niner wants to hear us talk about Max Sweaty Butt. That was actually one of the funnier topics that came up out of this week. That was definitely one of the that was pretty funny when especially when Garoppolo says, you're out there and it's a sunny day and all of a sudden it's like you get the ball and it feel like you're playing in the rain. I mean, that's having played quarterback at one point in my life, I can sympathize with Jimmy Garoppolo. I remember there was one time there was a few times in high school where I had to tell my center after practice, hey, you need to go get those pants washed because my hand's starting to really stink. You can't do anything about it. You got to get it up there, right? And that was back in the day before everybody ran shotgun like you do now. So if I was Garoppolo and that stuff started getting bad, I'd be like, hey, we just need to go 100% shotgun here until he goes and changes those pants.
One of the underrated simple things of a game is just getting down in there and knowing that your arm is square against another man's butt. You just can't beat it,
And that's one of the funniest things when you teach kids that have never done it before. You're like, you just got to get up in there. You gotta like pick him up with your hand. You got to make sure he feels your hand so he knows where he's putting that ball. It's not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way.
Oh man. Much.
Let's switch up gears one last time, and that's we got a big game coming up on Saturday. We finally get to watch the 49ers on television and get to see them go up against a team with a different color helmet for the first time since week 17 of last year. What are some things that you're looking for on Saturday night? What are some things you want to see?
Well, I was curious to see how much burn everybody would get, and Shanahan basically came out and laid out his plan. So I think we know what that's going to look like. I guess I'm going to lay out a concern, and a couple people brought it up earlier in the chat, but Mac Jones tonight, you got to see him play. And his first series was going against the twos, playing with the ones. All right? So that's Bill Belichick doing everything he can to make his rookie look good and to ease him into the game. Right? After that, it was twos on twos and what have you. It sounds like Lance is going to have the opposite treatment, which scares me a little bit. He's going to come in after a series, it sounds like. The Chiefs have already said they're playing their ones throughout the whole first quarter, and he's going to come in with the second team. That's worrisome. I don't want to make it too big of a thing until I actually see it happen, because saying it and actually doing it are two different things. Maybe he expects Andy Reid to only play his guys for a series, and once he sees what's going on, he'll put things together. But that concerns me a lot. I definitely don't want to see him with that makeshift offensive line going against a number one starting unit defensive line with Jones sitting in the middle, barreling down on Lance play after play after play. That's the last thing I want to see. So that's a concern of mine.
Yeah, no, that's definitely would be something that'd be worrisome. It'll be interesting to see what that consists of and how it really works in terms of uh, what happens with the Chiefs and how who's playing. Just like the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan said today that there's a number of starters. They're going to play with all as many ones as are available. There's going to be ones that aren't there. And he went through some of those names. We know there's going to be no Nick Bosa. There's going to be no D Ford. Jalen Hurd's not playing. I wouldn't be surprised to not see K'Wan Williams since he was held out of practice today. Uh, there was just a number of guys that weren't in there at practice today, and those guys probably won't be in the game on Saturday, would be my guess. So from that standpoint, well, let's see what happens, because you could be right. If that's what happens and it's the 49ers twos against the Chiefs ones, then you need to realize that, and you need to you need to evaluate that accordingly, because in that situation, it's going to be that's really drilled down on each individual position along the front the offensive line and see how each guy is doing in handling their assignment as close as we can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like I said, when we came up with this topic yesterday, it looked very different than what it does today, because at that time I'm thinking, okay, we can talk about like what expectations are and how much, run we expect everybody to get, but it sounds pretty cut and dry as far as what we're going to see. So it's just a matter of seeing it now on the field. Now, as far as like expectations of what I expect them to do as far as play, yeah, I mean, regardless of who Trey's going against, I'm not so worried about the stats. I'm just more interested in to see his poise, his pocket presence, his ability to move around, his ability to step up in the pocket if pressure is there, and his ability to go through his progressions. That's what I'm more than anything. That's what I'm interested in. It has nothing to do with completions or yards or touchdowns. Those things are great, but you can pick up yards and completions and stats without looking good. It all depends on how you go about it, and that's what I want to see from him most. I want to see Sermon. Sermon's probably going to start, I would imagine. I don't, I wouldn't be shocked if Mostert doesn't play either. So I expect him to get a lot of run. And then, yeah, I would say all those other rookies that we talked about, just seeing them progress, maybe with Lenore talking about how he felt really out of place and kind of still does, maybe getting on the field will make him feel very, very comfortable and kind of propel him and some of the other rookies throughout the rest of this training camp and just getting to feel football again.
Yeah, 100%. And the rookies are definitely going to be fun to watch. And, just kind of looking at some of the things that I was looking to see is, that just the offensive line too. Even if it is only for a series, how does this new revamped offensive line look? Are they going to be able to stand up against the front that's presented to them by the Chiefs? And then going back really quick to what you were talking about earlier with Trey Lance and dealing with his situation. I'm going to bring this one up from Pinor about this, but Shanahan mentioned this too because he was asked about Lance playing with the twos and throughout the first when he gets in there instead of playing with the first team offensive line. And part of his response today was that he wants to see how Lance responds to being challenged in adversity. So I think he kind of knows that it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for him early on, and he wants to see how he if he's able to keep his composure, because it's probably going to even out at some point in the first half. So is he able to kind of make it through? Let's say that does play out like you say, where it goes the whole first half of the Chiefs' first team defense. Is he able to make it through that period and then come out in the second when he's playing the Chiefs twos, and things kind of even out as far as the level of what he's going up against, and is he able to continue making the plays and doing the things that you would expect him to be able to do? So,
yeah, listen, it's a fine line of challenging him and getting him killed. Like, we know what that offensive line, that second offensive line looks like in practice against the second team defensive line. So imagine what it looks like against Chris Jones. So that's my concern. It's like, yes, you definitely want to have him see some adversity. You can do that in different ways. You can do it by saying, hey, listen, for this drive, I want you to stay in the pocket the whole time. For this drive, I want you to run X amount of read. You know what I mean? You can challenge him in different ways. For this drive, I want you to focus on your check down and your leaks. There's so many different ways to challenge him. I think throwing the number 2 offense out there around him to play the number 1s, I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And then real quick, I'm going to say the one other thing that I'm excited to see is the defensive front. Because
for sure,
there's been a lot of talk about how good this defense is, this defensive line is, and are they going to be able to show that against a team other than their own offense? And are they going to be able to show that depth? And again, we're not going to see Bosa, we're not going to see D Ford, we're not going to see Samson Ebicom. So it's going to be and you might not even see Javon Kinlaw because he wasn't out there today either. So. But let's see how everybody else does, because we've been talking about how deep it is and how much trouble they've been giving the 49ers, starting offensive line at times, and especially in the running game. So can they do that against the Chiefs as well? So that'll be something fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of intriguing players in this one, and all eyes are going to be on Lance. I understand that, but there's so much more to watch, and I'm just excited for football, man. I mean, I was watching that Patriots Washington game like it was the frickin' Super Bowl. I was like, okay, let's get some football going. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun to watch them get out there and see the helmets and the colors on the field again. That's kind of what everybody's looking forward to. At least that's what I'm most excited to see, is just see everybody out there, and definitely going to have to keep an eye on everything so we can come back and report on it. But it's going to be fun
for sure.
So that's pretty much all we had tonight. I wasn't sure if there might be something else that you wanted to touch base on real quick before we hop off for the night.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else topic-wise. I do want to say that it sounds like Coach McAvoy will be on again. So next week, Hammer and Nayls over on my platform. Coach McAvoy will be back for a 3rd time. There's going to be a lot of questions that we're going to have for him, especially after seeing Trey Lance play for the first time in an actual game. And, one of the questions that keeps popping up in my mind, and I can't wait to hear the answer, is when Trey Lance left and was gone for 40 days, was his thought that he is going in to win that number 1 job, or is he just going in to learn the offense and be another guy? I want to know what his mindset was, because I think that'll tell us a lot of what the chances are of him starting week 1. Maybe I've had my expectations set wrong the whole time and McAvoy will set them straight. Or maybe he says, yeah, he went in expecting to win that job and it is a competition to him and he's looking to be the starter. That's what I'm hoping to hear. So we'll see how he answers that question along with many others. But Coach McAvoy will be back on next Thursday over at Last Second Sports. And, if you play fantasy football, we're about to do a show on Last Second Sports here in about 10 minutes. So tap in over there and make sure you like and subscribe right here with Jack Hammer. Jack, I got to say congratulations. First of all, you passed 1,000. That's phenomenal. And 1,500 was no problem because you breezed right through that. So it's crazy to see how you picked up a 30 of your followers in about a 3-day time span. And it's just happened so quickly. I'm so happy for you. I love everything that you're doing. And it's just awesome to see you winning, man. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's crazy myself. We're just last week we were on here. We were talking about let's get, I think it was 5 more to get over 1,000, and now we're over 1,500 or whatever the number is. It's wild, and everything's going good. So, as Jesse said, please like and subscribe to my channel. Do the same thing with Last Second Sports. There's a lot of great content that those guys over there are putting out as well. That's all in the description here too. So make sure you're following both of us on Twitter. Lots of good information there as well. So for everybody that joined tonight, really appreciate it. Thanks so much. And make sure you're ready for Saturday night with the 49ers, and we'll be right back here next Thursday. Have a good night, everybody.